And Ryan, can you hear me?
Yep, it's crackling, but I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, all right. See, now we got it. We just had the Bluetooth, cell phone, all this good stuff. His name's Ryan Hana, the Wing Wheel Pod. Find him on Twitter at Ryan Hana, WWP. For all your Detroit Red Wings coverage, he does a sensational job. Ryan, first and foremost, good morning to you. How are you? How's life? How are things, partner?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Always happy to jump on the show. It's good. It's always a little bit of an anxious day when it's trade deadline day, just trying to do the impossible job of figuring out what Steve Yzerman is going to do or not do.
Do you think that, with where this team is at in the standings, Ryan, this is a massive, massive road trip. And the fact that they lost Dylan Larkin now for a couple of weeks with a lower body injury, there's a long slate of games here where they're going to need to get some points, and they're now riding a losing streak here that's making people like me extremely nervous. Do you think that there is a move that is available out there that can turn the tide a little bit and push this team over the edge? Or do you think this is more of a trade deadline where if there's any activity at all from Stevie Y, it's more of the sort of like the little moves that kind of continue to place them in a good position moving forward?
I'm going to give the boring answer of I think one is way more likely, but it's not impossible that there's a bigger move out there that can help right now. It's just hard to predict what that is because all the likely candidates are off the board already. So much action has already happened from Tuesday, Wednesday onwards. So I think what's more likely is that you see little moves, if anything, maybe you ship out a defensive contract like Justin Hall or something like that. But never rule out Steve Yzerman. If you have to point to one GM in the league who makes a move that maybe you weren't expecting at a time you weren't expecting, it's him. So don't call it over. It's just it's harder to see the path now of what a big move might be.
That is very interesting. The Justin Hall contract is kind of, if they're able to move on from him, what do you think that looks like as far as the Grand Rapids call?
Not much, right? Because the Red Wings already have such a glut of defensemen at the NHL level. Like they're going to roll with, the defensemen they have now. Injury. If that happens further, it'll dictate bringing up Simon Edmondson or maybe even an Albert Johansson, depending on how far down you go. But they're not making this move to make room for Simon Edmondson right now. They're making this move to offload money because they're going to have to pay Mo Seider more next year. They're going to have to pay Lucas Raymond more next year. They have some cap considerations to have here.
Oh, salary caps, man, I love them. It's the game. It's the game outside of the game. Is there a correlation, Ryan, between this 3-game losing streak and the garbage patch that's on the jersey?
Oh man, I know people are losing their minds over that. It was all vibes with the Red Wings, and definitely that was when the jersey ad comes in, no one loves it. Look, my opinion on the jersey ads is the moment the NHL announced it, I thought it was a disgrace. I thought that was a sacred space. I know I'm a big baby about it, but I just think no jerseys should ever have ads on the front like that, but it is what it is. It's not just the NHL either, it's the NHLPA. Like, the players agree to this because they make a ton more money too, so it's, to me, I saw it as inevitable. I'm not so considered I'm not considering the jersey ad so much when they're losing. I'm considering defensive lapses and an inability to kind of break through the Florida Panthers, for example. But I don't blame people for not liking it. I don't think fans should ever pretend to like it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. There's enough of us young people out here right now, Ryan. We could change the world and remove the jersey patch for good. Probably not, though. This is a tough 3-game slide, right? I mean, you lose to the Islanders at home 5-3. Then you welcome in the Florida Panthers in a game in which the first period I thought they contended really well, and Florida was all over them. It was suffocating. Panthers end up winning 4-0, and then they go to Colorado on Wednesday and just get drilled after taking an early lead 1-0. Then that game was 1-1. And then it's like, hey, it's 2-1, we're back, and then it's 2-2, and then the rest of it, I mean, hell, you could have watched the Pro Bowl. Just turn the station, find something better to do with your life, because that was a disaster. When you look at this 3-game lapse, for me, this is important tonight against Arizona. Like, you got to win this game, because at some point you got to stop the bleeding here. Don't let 2 games turn into 3. Don't let a 3-game losing streak turn into 6. Yeah,
you're exactly right. There's no 3-game losing streak that's good, but I don't think situation right now for Detroit, but you can't go much longer here. Like last night's results, like talk about Florida and how good they were against Detroit. They just lost at home to the Philadelphia Flyers, who Detroit needed to lose. So, they're not really getting the favor of Philly slowing down or the Islanders slowing down right now. Like the only reprieve was that the Tampa Bay Lightning lost. So I think what you have to have for Detroit is, you stop the bleeding. You have to come into Arizona, a team that you can and should beat, and you use this as an opportunity to turn things around. Because the next night is Vegas, so it's not going to get easier. I said if they walk away from this road trip, or even with hypothetically 7 games without Dylan Larkin with a 500 points percentage, that's not bad. You can work with that because of the cushion they had. They have to hope the Islanders and or the Flyers stumble a little bit, but I think they can swim if they can get half the points, but you got to start getting the points soon.
What's been the biggest area of concern with this Detroit Red Wings team to this point? Because I think that once Patrick Kane came out and started doing Patrick Kane things, and we're all very excited about the point per game pace that he is on currently, and the fact that man, Steve Yzerman was right when he said that we expect him to be the Patrick Kane of 2 years ago, not the one from last year. And Kane's having a great year along with DeBrincat and Larkin. It's like finally we get to see what Dylan Larkin can really be when he's surrounded by these types of guys. Now, obviously, Larkin down with the injury, but what's been the biggest area of concern for you with this club?
It's been defense all season. Like, there's just no other way around it. Detroit's defensive core, there's certain parts of it that are bright spots. I think Ben Sherratt has turned around his season compared to what we saw last year, which is good. I think Shane Gostisbehere has been a revelation offensively, especially on the power play, and that's been good for a guy you brought in for free. But, you have Mo Seider and Jake Wallman on the top pair, and most nights those guys are just getting shelled. They have the most unforgiving, thankless minutes in the NHL. Like, legitimately, statistically, they play the toughest minutes against the hardest opponents in the league. Some nights they keep Detroit afloat. Some nights no one could be a match for the opponents that they're facing, and how often they have to face them and how often they start in the defensive zone. Detroit needs help on defense. Like their bottom 4 players, they're just not getting the kind of defensive stops they need to, and no one can free up a little bit of support from Mo Seider to actually be what Mo Seider can be. No one can free up support for some offensive creativity from that top pair or some preferred starts. Essentially, what Derek Lalonde has to do is send out his 2 best guys, neutralize all of their offensive or creative aspects of the game just to try to make sure that Detroit doesn't get destroyed defensively. So improving that blue line is a big, big need right now. And I don't know that it's fixable at the trade deadline, but they're going to have to find a way in the offseason.
Is there a target out there, someone who may become available this offseason that you would like to see in the winged wheel?
First and foremost for me, I want to see Simon Edvinsson up in Detroit. I understand that things have gone well this year in Grand Rapids and by and large in Detroit, but I still maintain I think bringing him up at the start of this season would have been the better move because he's not going to be, lights out from day one. But if you get him up sooner and, you get him that experience, I'd rather have Simon Edvinsson making rookie mistakes than, some of the veterans Detroit has had making their mistakes because at least it has the function of him developing and learning. So, if they get him up and then he eventually can slide into a top 4 role, that's going to be the easiest way to do it. Now you want to go trade or pie in the sky here, then some different directions you can go. We talk a lot about Jacob Chychrun in Ottawa, and I know he's a lot of name value and, talking about getting burned defensively, he has that aspect to his game where it's a little bit of a hole, but still that's a very good defenseman that would make Detroit's top 4 better. He comes with a year of term left after this one, so which is a good thing, but he'll also be expensive to buy from Ottawa. I think Detroit's been around that one, but still has a ton of teams anytime a guy of Chychrun's ability is available. So if you want to get a little bit crazier for a trade aspect, he's a guy I would look at.
Ryan, I've been pleasantly surprised with this season. I didn't really know. I was hyped about the DeBrincat move, but at the end of the day, it's like, all right, let's actually see what happens. They're 4th in the Atlantic right now. They're in the wild card position. They're fighting. They're playing meaningful games here, even though the last 3 losses, it felt like a total gut punch. I still think for the fan base to be in this position, first wild card, this point of the season, like this is a sign of the Yzer plan really, really working, considering where they were at in that fateful weekend in Ottawa last season. We're not that far removed from that. Are you surprised at how quickly things kind of went from, we're in the doldrums to now here we are fighting for our playoff lives in a wild card spot, could still potentially catch Toronto in the Atlantic Division for one of those three berths into the playoffs?
Yeah, definitely a surprise. I think Detroit was poised for some improvement this year. But at the start of the season, I said for Detroit to be in this kind of position, they would need a lot of things to go right. Like I didn't think it was impossible. I thought they would probably be a fringe wild card team, but for them to be, a step higher than that, I would have thought, Raymond has to be having an excellent season. They're going to have to get good goaltending, which they found in Alex Lyon, and they're going to have guys that we're not even thinking of step up. And they brought in Patrick Kane and other players, so they did that. But yeah, this is a big step, and credit not just to Steve Yzerman, but to Jared Coulon and the Red Wings who have changed the way they play and manage their team. The way you're seeing the Red Wings play is different. Fans who watch this team night in and night out will tell you this feels different. Mind you, they do have to get out of this little funk here, but before that, like this felt significant. Last year was very exciting, and I thought, could this happen? And this year, when they were going well, I was watching them, and the feeling to me was totally different. I thought, I think this will happen. So this is a sign that things are working, yes. There's also a lot of work to be done, but that's okay. It doesn't happen overnight.
It really doesn't. And you think about the winning streak that they were just on before this 3-game slide, right? Winners of 6 consecutive, and it kind of built that belief. Like I really thought that game against Colorado in Little Caesars was the first playoff game that building has seen. That to me is what that felt like. It was a 2-1 winner on that Thursday night. They went on to beat the Blackhawks on the road with Patrick Kane's winner there. That was just like storybook type of stuff. You beat the Washington Capitals, beat their brains in, and then we get to the Islanders and where we're at currently. But just to see the excitement around the club, the excitement in the building, that is what all of us, especially in our age range, have been waiting for this return for so long. Is what it feels like. It's like wandering in the desert for 40 years or whatever. Like, just come on, let's get back into the playoffs. Let's do it. So I'm going to ask you this then. Do you think it happens? Do you think they make the playoffs this year?
I'm going to say they do it. And I'm going to say that without the Dylan Larkin context in my mind. I just haven't seen how this team's going to play for an extended period without Larkin, and that's the only thing that gave me some pause. Before the Larkin injury, I thought, even with the losses, I thought, yeah, they're going to do it. It's tougher now. I think if they walk away from, the Larkin injury period and they can grab half the points in that time, I think definitely. I'm going to go out there and say they still do it with the risk of, I'm going to make myself look dumb, which wouldn't be a first for me, so.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, look, I'm here for it. I'm all in. Like I'm 100% in. I think they're making the playoffs too. I like the way that they play. I like the way that they can score. But as you mentioned, they've gotten some timely goaltending. Then once you're in the tournament, anything can happen. A hot goalie, and you can. We've seen 8 seeds in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs win this thing before. His name is Ryan Hana. You can find him on Twitter at Ryan Hana WWP. Make sure you check out the Winged Wheel Pod for all of your Detroit Red Wings content and conversation, a deep dive into it. Ryan, my man, thank you so much for your time today, partner. We greatly appreciate it, and continued success to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Always happy to be on the show.